My name is Rick Halverson, and the line was crossed at 3:07 a.m. on the 14th floor of a Honolulu hotel. It wasn't crossed with an argument, or a slow erosion. It was kicked in. The door, my door, burst inward in a shower of splinters, and there stood my stepson, Evan, drunk and righteous in the frame. Behind him, my wife Linda stepped over the wreckage. She didn't look at the damage. She looked at me, her whisper a blade in the humid dark. Just give him what he wants. For a second, I didn't move. Not from fear. Evan was 28 and loud. Not tough, but because the sound of breaking wood did something irrevocable inside my chest. It wasn't just a door. It was the final, violent snap of a boundary I'd spent years trying to maintain in a marriage that preferred everything soft and bent. The hotel hallway was a tomb of carpeted silence, air conditioning, distant elevator hum. Evan filled it. I want that room now, he shouted, a tourist shop tank top clinging to him, his breath a sour cloud of bar tequila and sugar. Trouble, already unpacked. Linda stood behind him in a robe, barefoot. Her face was pinched, tired, annoyed, at me. Rick, she said, in that tactical tone reserved for extracting compliance, don't make this worse. He's upset. Upset. A 30-year-old man demolishing a door was a mood swing. I stared at her, but she was already assessing the broken latch, rehearsing her explanation for the front desk. Evan jabbed a finger past me, toward the king bed by the window. Beyond the glass, Honolulu glittered, a postcard view turned stage set for a humiliation. That one. I'm taking it. This is our room, I said. My voice sounded foreign, calm and flat, like it was coming from someone else. Not anymore. Linda finally met my eyes. Her look was a familiar cocktail of pressure and pity. Be the bigger man. Pay the price so we can all go back to pretending. Rick, she pleaded softly. He's had a hard time. Don't be selfish over a bed. Selfish. The word landed, perfectly aimed. It wasn't about a bed. It was about the rent I'd covered, the loans that never returned, the excuses that always flowed downstream until they pooled at my feet. I was the absorbent surface in this family, the shock absorber. I didn't answer. I stood there in my t-shirt and pajama shorts, feeling the conditioned air on my legs, the solid floor beneath my feet. Everything else was shifting. Down the hall, a door cracked open, a face appeared, then vanished. A latch clicked shut. No witnesses wanted. My eyes went to the fractured frame. The wood was split clean where the deadbolt had been. A sliver of oak dangled. My brain, trained by 30 years of parsing accidents people swore weren't their fault, began its cold, familiar work. Forced entry, liability, cameras in the hallway. They always check cameras. I walked to the dresser. From the top drawer, I retrieved my small black notebook, a companion since the 80s. I clicked my old Parker pen and wrote in clear script. 3:07 a.m. Evan kicked door in. Demanded room. Linda present. What are you doing? Evan blinked. Remembering. Linda's face tightened. Rick, don't. Come on. She hated the notepad. She could navigate emotions, steer scenes. My silence, my documentation, were walls she couldn't scale. Evan puffed out his chest. Move. I'm taking it. I looked at him. I thought of shoving him back into the hall. I thought of the roar it would feel good to unleash. I thought of the 10 seconds of satisfaction. And then I thought of the cameras, and the story that would be told the moment I laid a hand on him. How a man my age becomes the villain in someone else's narrative. How the truth blurs passing through their mouths. I stepped back. Not in surrender. In exit. Fine. Triumph flooded Evan's face. He shoved past, collapsing onto the bed with a victor's grunt. Linda exhaled. Thank you for behaving. I didn't reply. I pulled my suitcase from the closet and packed with slow, deliberate care. I folded my clothes into neat rectangles. Evan laughed to himself on the bed. Linda hovered in the shattered doorway, arms crossed, offering no help, no apology. You're being dramatic, she said, the quiet unnerving her. It's one night. One night, I echoed, my voice still level. Sure. I zipped the bag, lifted it, and walked past her. The hallway carpet felt coarse against my bare feet. The dim, calming lights felt like an insult. She followed me 2 steps. Where are you going? I turned. Evan was already muttering in triumph behind her. I wanted to say that a man can only bend so many times before he stays bent, that I was tired of funding the childhood of a grown man. Instead, I said, somewhere with a lock. Her mouth fell open. Offense flashed in her eyes, pure, unadulterated offense that I had been indelicate, not that her son was a vandal. Rick. I didn't wait. I walked toward the elevator, the suitcase wheels humming on marble. The broken door yawned behind me like an open mouth. The elevator arrived with a soft chime. As the doors closed, her face was the last thing I saw, wrapped in a robe, standing alone, looking at me like I was the one who'd caused a scene. The descent was smooth. 14, 13, 12? My phone buzzed. A text from Linda. Don't do anything stupid. I stared at the words. I hadn't done anything yet, but in that quiet drop, I knew I was done paying for other people's peace, and I knew something else, colder and clearer than anger. When you kick down a door, you don't get to decide what walks out. The memory of that shattered hotel door hung in the quiet of my kitchen. My suitcase still sat by the front entrance, a silent sentinel. I looked at the screen. Linda. I let it ring twice before answering. What now? I said, my voice a flat plane. Her words were thin, strained. Rick, we have a problem. I leaned against the counter. We've had a problem for a long time. This is different. Evan's freaking out. The hotel says. I know what the hotel says. A pause. I could see her, pacing that ravaged room, the phone a desperate lifeline. They're treating it like vandalism. She rushed out. Not a guest incident, because his name wasn't on the booking. That's because it wasn't, I said. You knew. Her voice leapt. An accusation. You knew that would happen. I knew how it would be classified. I didn't decide it. A hard exhale. Rick. He was drunk. He didn't mean to. He kicked a door in at 3 a.m., I said. Intent stopped mattering. Before she could reply, a scuffle erupted. Put me on. Evan's voice demanded. Closer. Louder. The phone changed hands, and his furious breathing filled my ear. You think you're real clever, he spat. Locking accounts. Running away. You can't do this to me. I didn't do anything to you, I said. You left us. You humiliated us. I waited. Let the silence stretch. You owe me. He barreled on, voice cracking. You married my mom. You signed up for this. I watched the second hand on the wall clock sweep its patient arc. Evan, I said finally, do you know what the cameras show? A brittle laugh. What cameras? I told them what happened. Yes, I agreed. You told them. The laughter died. They show you alone in the hallway. I continued, calm as a readout. They show you kicking the door. They show no one touching you. The incident report notes you were an unregistered guest. That changes everything. You're threatening me. No, I'm informing you. Linda's voice broke back in, frayed. Rick, please. He didn't understand. Can you just help us straighten this out? Help. The word had weight. A history. I felt the full burden of the day settle into my bones. There's something else, I said. She went quiet. I've seen this pattern, I continued. Something breaks. Then there's a story, a push, a threat, a lost item, a claim follows. Paperwork gets creative. Evan exploded. You accusing me of fraud? I'm saying I won't be part of anything that looks like it. Not with my name on the line. Not with my career. Linda sucked in a sharp breath. Rick, what are you talking about? I'm talking about protecting myself, because I won't lie for this anymore. A curse, a slam, fist on table. Maybe. Linda began to cry. Sharp, wounded sounds. You're tearing this family apart, she sobbed. The old pull twisted in my chest. The instinct to soothe, to fix the feeling instead of the fact. I'd followed that compass for years. It only ever led deeper into the fog. No, I said, my voice quiet but clear in the empty kitchen. I'm stopping it from tearing me apart. Evan shouted something unintelligible. Then, a dead click. I stood there, phone to my ear, listening to the hollow tone. The refrigerator's hum was suddenly monstrous in the stillness. My phone buzzed again instantly. An email. From Mercer Legal Services. Subject. Notice of intent. I opened it. The language was vague. Blustering, accusations of abandonment, financial harm, a threat without teeth, but a threat all the same. My pulse kicked, not with fear, but with a cold, professional recognition. This was the play. I forwarded it to my work account, filed it digitally in the Hawaii folder. Then I sat at the table, staring at the wood grain until the world settled back into focus. This was the hinge, the moment I could still call back, negotiate, pay a portion to make the noise recede, but I knew the cost of quiet. It was a debt that compounded. I opened my notebook. The Parker pen felt solid, definitive. I wrote, 6:42 p.m. Legal threat received. No response sent. I capped the pen. Outside, the Fort Wayne evening was fading into a nondescript gray. A garage door rumbled shut down the block. Ordinary life. Moving on. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel victorious. I felt a crystalline, dangerous clarity. By the time they flew home, the story had already broken leash. In a town like this, you don't need to gossip. You just stop correcting the record. I found out at Meyer's grocery. In the coffee aisle, Paul Hendris from church approached, his kind eyes curious. "Linda back?" he asked. "Last night." A telling pause. "Rough trip?" I didn't explain. I reached into my jacket, unfolded the incident report, and handed it to him. He read it slowly, his face hardening not in judgment, but in understanding. "Huh," he said finally, handing it back. "That's something. Sorry you had to deal with that." "Thank you," I said. That was all. By noon, a text from a forgotten number. "You did the right thing. Marcy, VFW Auxiliary." When Linda came home, she stood in the hallway as if lost. "We need to talk," she said. "After dinner." "You're acting like this is normal." "This is normal," I said, meeting her eyes. She looked exhausted, aged. What happened there wasn't. She followed me, arms wrapped tight around herself. "Do you know what people are saying?" "I know what the paper says. That's enough." "You embarrassed us." The church board called. They asked about the travel fund. A cold, precise click in my chest. What travel fund? Her gaze fled to the window. For the youth retreat. Some of it was used for Hawaii. Temporarily. Evan was supposed to pay it back. How much? A whisper. 4,000. I exhaled, long and steady. And whose name was on that account? Her silence was the answer. I walked to the desk, retrieved the Hawaii folder, and laid the incident report between us on the table. "I'm not covering this," I said. Her face crumpled. "You're leaving me to deal with all of it." "No," I corrected, my voice impossibly calm. "I'm letting you deal with it." The crying that followed used to be a lever that moved me. Now, it was just a sound. I slept in the guest room that night. The pillow smelled of dust and clean linen. I slept straight through. The consequences, once seeds, now broke ground. Evan's employer called. The diner buzz solidified. The church scheduled an emergency meeting. I didn't attend. I sat at my desk and let the machinery of accountability turn. The mediation summons came on Thursday. Linda had filed. I printed the email and added it to the folder. That evening, a knock. Tom Willis from down the block stood there with a 6-pack of root beer. "Figured you might need company," he said. We sat on the porch as dusk settled, not speaking much, watching the streetlights flicker on. "You okay?" he asked eventually. "I am," I said, and I meant it. He nodded. "Sometimes stopping is the hardest thing." I looked at my own front door, solid and intact. I thought of the one in Hawaii, splintered. The next steps would be public. They would hurt. But for the first time in years, the silence around me wasn't heavy. It was mine.